お久しぶりです。いや、元気だった？
元気です。
よかったよかった。
生きています。
よかった。
お久しぶりです。
ねえ。
ワンダーランドというテーマパークなんですけど、
あるんだ。
ジェットコースターとか、
うん。
インスタグラム写真載せて。
This is the first interview for the media outlets all over the world, so in person. After you declared, why did you choose the TV Tokyo as the first media outlet for that?
Yeah, this is eventually the first in-person interview I had since last December that I announced that I'm in Toronto and I'm not going back to Hong Kong. So, so we had like interview for like I think many times in the past 10 years, and actually TV Tokyo was the first Japanese media that I had interviewed with since I think Umbrella Movement 10 years ago. So yeah, so that's why I think TV Tokyo would be a very good choice for me to have my first interview in Toronto.
So at the moment, so you avoid receiving the interview from Hong Kong media or Chinese media?
Well, actually, I'm not really avoiding, like having interview with Hong Kong media, but I think it's another way around that, like, the Hong Kong media would not reach out to me because of the national security law and because of the political environment that it's becoming more and more severe. Because the national security law, it's not only about like ordinary citizens in Hong Kong, but it's also about media has to be under the monitor of the government. So, and Hong Kong government officials once said that if the media reach out to people who are being, who are like under bounty, who are wanted persons, they might be against the national security law also. So I think it's like I'm not trying to avoid the Hong Kong media, but it's the Hong Kong media like they didn't reach out to me because of my like sensitive like identity right now.
So this is a question similar to the question Ikegami-san asked. So when you heard you were on the list, hunted, wanted. So how did you feel about that?
Honestly speaking, I was not really that shocked after knowing that I am on the list of being a wanted person in Hong Kong. But like it would not be true if I said that I'm like totally not scared or not worried at all, because the Chinese authority is having a lot of overseas police all around the world, not only in Canada but also in the States and also in Japan. So I am quite worried about my personal security also, even I'm now in Toronto. So I have to be like be very aware of like people around me, even I'm now living in Toronto, and I'm still worried about my personal safety.
So are you safe now?
I'm not sure actually. I haven't felt like any direct threats from the Chinese authority or Chinese community here in Toronto, but I have to be very aware.
You know that there's some news report about Hong Kong police based overseas. So even in Toronto, in Japan, of course. So Yeah. What do you think about this scheme? So of the Hong Kong police or Chinese police?
It's very clear that the Chinese authority is trying to expand their influence not only within the territory of China, but also all over around the world, using their overseas police and using the connection to the local Chinese community in different parts of the world. So it's also the case for the national security law that under the law, not only Hong Kong citizens are under threat, but actually even for foreigners, even for Japanese people, even for Canadian people, they are under the threat of the national security law, that if they did or if they said something like bad about China or about the Hong Kong authority, one day if they are going to enter China or Hong Kong, they might be arrested or they might be refused to enter Hong Kong just because of the national security law. So it's not only about like Hong Kong citizens, but about the whole world.
So you mentioned the like kind of negotiations or by police. They want you to share the information with the other activists. So could you tell us the detail of that? So,
Yes, after I told the police that I would like to go to Canada for my postgraduate studies, they asked me a lot, and I was asked to they asked me a lot about like everything, like about my family, about my income, about where I live, about my friends, about my past political party and my political connections. And they asked me, was I willing to provide like information of other overseas activists to them after arriving in Toronto, and I refused to their invitation eventually. But later on, I was being brought to the mainland China to a very patriotic trip, and I was even being forced to write a letter of repentance. So it shows that Hong Kong is no longer a city with rule of law, although the authority claim that they are doing things according to the law, they're doing things according to a rule of law system in Hong Kong, but like none of my experience, like the trip to Shenzhen and the letter of repentance, are written in any part of the law in Hong Kong. So Hong Kong is no longer a city with rule of law.
so they're similar to the mainland China.
Yes, Hong Kong is definitely getting closer to the mainland China, and also what the Hong Kong police is trying to do to threaten the activists in Hong Kong. The way they're trying to do it is like it's getting like closer to how the mainland police has been doing to the activists in the mainland China.
So in this aspect, so one country, two system are broken already.
Well, I would say there is no longer one country, two systems in Hong Kong, and it is the Hong Kong authority, it's the Chinese authority who destroyed the one country, two system in Hong Kong. So in 1997, we were once being promised of having one country, two systems and high level of autonomy, but these promises were being totally destroyed by the Chinese authority.
So you can call that the moment China, so totalitarian or authoritarian.
Well, I would say it's a kind of dictatorship for me.
Dictator. Oh.
So we could see that, like, politically, like, everything is under the control, a total control of the Chinese authority, and we as a people has no, like, it's no right to say no if we are living in its territory. So especially for people living in Hong Kong, that we once had not a full but like a part of freedom, that we could vote, we could have demonstration, we could say no to the government, and these kind of so-called advantages of Hong Kong are now disappearing. And as a Hong Konger, I would say it's a very, like, a sad thing for me.
So, do you regret? So you joined the democracy movement, or not? Regret or not?
I have no regret of my participation in the past, and it's still a very important part in my life. So I still believe that I was doing something meaningful for my home, for the city of Hong Kong, and you know, it's hard to say, like, I still have hope to Hong Kong, because the situation is becoming so like worse and worse right now. But still, I would, at least what I could do is to try my best to say what I have to say.
Can you speak about your future plan? So, what do you plan for that? So, you're gonna continue there being activist or something? So.
I would only say, like, after my experience of the past 3-4 years, that, you know, I totally, like, now I understand how important freedom is for me and for everyone living in the world. So in the coming future, what I want to do is to say what I want to say, to do what I want to do, and just to enjoy my freedom, just to enjoy what I could do. And of course, it's still important to let people living around the world to know the situation in Hong Kong, and to know, like, what I have been experiencing.
So, what message do you convey to all younger generations, so all over the world, of course, include Japan and other area?
Well, you know, don't take freedom as granted. Like, especially as a Hong Konger, we know that freedom, like, we know how precious freedom is. And we know how suffering it could be without having freedom. Yeah, don't take freedom as granted.
Okay, sure. Okay, just for checking, so now your status about visa, so visa, just a student visa, and then so yeah, what do you plan for that? So are you gonna change the visa into other visa? So of course, refugee or
I'm not planning to seek for asylum in Canada, so I'm now holding student permit in Canada, and as an international student here, so honestly speaking, I have not planned about the future yet. Like, because my student permit will be due next year. Until I've forgotten, like August. Yeah, like June or August, like something like that. And I have not planned about the future yet. Yeah, but I am not seeking asylum here.
Thank you so much.
足が
足がごめんごめんごめん。
全く別番組で他局だったんです。はい。まあね。でもちょっとここいいよ。
帰ってこないですし、2020年の時に国家安全法で逮捕されて。